College football fans, welcome back to the College Ball Show. He's Marshall, I'm Chris, and we're here to talk some good old-fashioned college football. And we had ourselves a very entertaining Saturday, of course. Michigan was up on their rivals, let that one slip through 37-33. Michigan State pulls it off. Just down the stretch, man, offensively, defensively, clearly they ran the you-know-what out of the ball. Very good performance there. Iowa lose back-to-back games now, got handled in this one, 27-7. Auburn got by Ole Miss. It was a competitive game, but a good game at that. Ohio State and Penn State was a little tighter than some expected. Ohio State did manage to get the job done. We did have some upsets, though. Kentucky got beat. My Miami squad beat another ranked team back-to-back over Pittsburgh. SMU, unfortunately, Cincinnati's not too happy about that. But SMU went down to Houston. That was a really fun game to watch. Iowa State got beat. We said, hey, are you sure? Are you positive that they should be that big a favorite? We weren't calling for an upset, but they got the upset. West Virginia, San Diego State went down swinging. So it was actually a very eventful Week 9. Obviously, tomorrow there will be the first playoff rankings, the first official. One of these Tuesdays, once it heats up even more, we probably will do a show directly after they release them. But we'll kind of let these go a little bit because I think although there'll be debate, how deep will the debate be? It seems like there's only one ranked versus ranked, Auburn, Texas A&M for Week 11. I got to admit, on paper, it looks kind of mild. There are some games under the radar, but not flying all that far under the radar. Even, the week before last week, we had a bunch of good-ass games, even though it wasn't like 3 or 4 ranked versus ranked teams. So this is going to be an interesting Week 10, and we know the regular season of college football can just kind of pop up on you. But if this is your first time listening to the College Ball Show, welcome. It streams live right here on blog.radio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. You don't have to go to Rope-A-Dope or Blog Talk and download the show directly there if you don't want to. You can find the show in a lot of different places. On Apple Podcasts under the Rope-A-Dope Radio Podcast, iHeartRadio, Player FM, TuneIn, Stitcher. We're also part of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network. While you're at it, why don't you head on over to thegruelingtruth.com. And one more thing, if you're thinking about cutting the cord or you're not quite happy, I got something for you. It's called Direct TV Stream. The prices start as low as $69.99 a month. The best of live television and on demand. No annual contract, no hidden fees. If you upgrade to Choice or Ultimate packages, that'll give you 3 free months of HBO Max, plus you get to enjoy regional sports networks without the additional fees that you see so often now, or they just don't carry it. And if you go all the way to the Premier package, that'll give you Showtime and HBO Max already in the monthly payment. That's Direct TV Stream. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my co-host Marshall and see how he's doing on this first day of November.
Hey, the first day of November, it's kind of a sad, somber moment. My life of being 36 is going to be over in 29 days. Being 36 has been really good. I'm hoping 37 stays the same, but if there's any way, Chris, you can repeat a year, I'd appreciate that. So, yeah, on November 30th, I turned 37.
Want to do 2020 over again? Oh, wait, forget it.
Yeah, I want to repeat my age of 36, but skip past all the COVID bullshit. So, yeah, it's been a pretty good week. I had a nice little easy day of work today, which was very fun because I didn't have to be at work the whole day. So that was beautiful. For my opening rant, actually, it's a positive one. If you've been listening to us, we like to give out picks every week. And I was again 2 for 1. I said to look at West Virginia against Iowa State. They covered. I said to look at Tulane against Cincinnati. Actually, we both talked about that one, my friend, and they did.
I mean,
cover.
I brought up West Virginia too. I put it in an article. So
Okay.
just calm down on the eyes.
Okay. So both of us gave out West Virginia. Both of us mentioned Tulane was getting way too many points, and they only scored 12, but they still covered against Cincinnati. And I also gave out Sparty. I also gave out Michigan to beat Sparty, which if you bet Michigan first half, you went 3-0 off our picks. If you took Michigan full game, no. And it's mind-blowing because this is a Michigan State offense who has very talented players. I saw that Sparty has a talented offensive running back and a wide receiver, which you saw against Rutgers. But that's also a Rutgers defense who, hey, at given times, you're going to give up some big plays. But after their Rutgers explosion, Michigan State looked pretty just average. Just their quarterback is not that good. So if you were holding a Michigan ticket and you're up 2 touchdowns in the second half,
the running back has been a stud though, but yeah.
And you're right, completely. They have a NFL talented first and second round pick, wide receiver and running back. The running back was getting Heisman hype a couple weeks ago, but due to a poor quarterback, in my opinion, that can eliminate letting your star wide receiver and starting back show off their skills, just because a defense can hone in on certain things. But to be up 2 touchdowns on your interstate rival in the second half in a game where you've pretty much kept things under control, and then to become like a defensive sieve, man, that's tough. I saw on Twitter, Chris, that Harbaugh is now 3-9 against Sparty and Ohio State. Yet the man still has a job. I mean, again, it's not all on him, and
he's been there 12 years.
3-9 against Sparty and Ohio State.
Oh, I didn't hear the other part.
Sorry.
What?
Yeah.
I'm lost. Okay. That's not good.
No. And again, there's been a couple of nail biters with Ohio State, but man, that is a awful loss for Michigan. Again, no, I'm not saying either of those teams are going to make the college football playoff. I don't think Sparty needs to be in that talk. But for now, you knocked off a rival. You won a top 10 intermatchup game. But hey, I'll give Michigan State credit that you pulled it off. Your explosive players made plays when they had to. I didn't think they would due to the quarterback's lack of skill, but they did. So, massive props to Sparty, man. If you're Michigan, like, dude, you're up 14. I just keep going over that in my head. I'm like, dude, that was I left a basketball game I was coaching, and I saw, okay, like, hey, Michigan's got it wrapped up. You're up 30-14 or 30-16. Like, we're good. And you watch the game, and you're like, what just happened? But the defense collapsed. The offense couldn't quite answer back, and Sparty gets a big win. And despite and Chris, it feels like I'll leave you this. I'll throw it to you. I think Michigan State's kind of giving you that Iowa image of we're a good team, we're undefeated, we're not great though, but hey, until someone beats us, let's keep riding this tidal wave, and that's what Sparty's doing.
Yeah, I'll push back a little bit because they had the lead by a little bit more than 2 touchdowns, 30-14, but that's like 7 minutes into the third. So it's not like it was halfway through the fourth or something like that. But you had the lead, you were in control. And although they gave back-to-back touchdowns to make it 30-30, they did force three and outs in that second half. I would actually probably point more to the offense.
Okay.
Really, because they had, after that touchdown, it was 30-22. They scored a touchdown, opened it up early in the third, 30-14. Then on offense, they went punt, field goal, fumble, turnover on downs, and an interception. Now, obviously, the interception, they still had some time to go down and score there. They had it was a minute 15. So that interception, so offensively, it was just like they just kind of fell asleep at the wheel. The quarterback, although, during the game, I'm seeing him leave a couple of plays on the field, but how can you argue with 28 of 44 and 383? And with McCarthy, he put the ball on the ground a couple of times. And just going back to that running back, 23 of 190, 23 carries, 197, and 5 touchdowns, the most touchdowns by anybody, in Michigan State history against Michigan. So, man, yeah, I'm not trying to. Neither of these teams just screamed like, oh, they're going to be, like you said, in the semifinals. But these are the type of games that you can start to prove yourself. And yeah, man, the Wolverines definitely fell flat on their face down the stretch. And they in some of those drives, they were moving the ball too. It wasn't all 3 and out. They just, man, it was kind of crazy. I just didn't see them fall apart that much. And on the flip side, just to keep it in the Big Ten, it was tough to see, Clifford. He's been so banged up lately that who's to know that he was going to come out looking healthy and playing good? I mean, they had to rely on him enough. They couldn't run the ball worth a you-know-what. They had to throw the ball 52 times. And, I got to say, I was a little kind of a weird start to the game because it was like fumble, punt, fumble, turnover on downs. But once they found their groove, they made it somewhat competitive to the point where, it was 27-24 and they ended up throwing a pick. That kind of messed it up. They missed a field goal down the stretch that, in the end probably wouldn't have meant a whole lot. But I got to say, Penn State with Clifford and everything, they actually came to play and played a pretty tough game. I was kind of surprised, but, what was it, an 18-point spread or something like that? But
Yeah.
You didn't know because Clifford's been so banged up, and if they don't have him, they don't have much.
Yeah, and honestly, I think aside from Georgia, who wasn't superly impressive this week, but they got the job done again, Ohio State, actually, that's a pretty bad win. Just if we're looking for, who's progressing towards the top of top teams in the country in the land, like Ohio State pretty much played against a pretty crappy, Penn State team who had let Illinois set a rushing school record on them. And, with a banged quarterback, like Penn State put up a gritty effort. But if you're Ohio State, if we're looking for, okay, who's up there with George? Like maybe it's Alabama, maybe it's someone else. Like the someone else chat, even Ohio State, like that wasn't too impressive at all. You got the win. But, I mean, it was a one-score game for pretty much the first 3 quarters, and you were losing. So, like, credit to Penn State. Like, hey, you had a couple of tough losses. You took the Iowa game on the chin. You had a weird game against Illinois with 9 overtimes, and then you come out, kind of beat a quarterback, and you almost knock off Ohio State. So, I think this is so weird, Chris, because we've done this podcast now for 9 or 10 years, it feels like. And we've always almost had a couple of teams that are like, okay, these are the best teams in the country, and who else can contend with them? This year, you have Georgia, who's showing dominance, but after that, there's really no, okay, well, this team, and it's kind of a one-horse race, which we almost never see in college football, even if it's always been, okay, it's Clemson and Bama, or it's whoever. But this year we got Georgia and we got a bunch of people who are trying to get up there with them, but they're not quite doing it. And it just kind of makes for, I think, what should be a really fun final month and a half of this college football season, because it's not as predictable as, okay, well, the title game is going to be Georgia Bama, and let's like have fun picking bowl games. Like we actually have a little more of a debate and what might happen kind of season, which I think is enjoyable for college football fans in general, unless you're obviously a diehard Bama or Clemson fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's been the theme all season, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. It's a big headache for the committee playoffs.
Sure.
It is going to be a week-to-week type thing, but Penn State's not as bad as like you said. It's not, they're a crappy team. I don't know about that. They beat Auburn, who's a pretty good team. They probably would have beat Iowa if they didn't lose their quarterback in that game. But, Ohio State offensively, it just had it bumping. So a lot of people, including us, kind of just assume, that's how they would probably cover the spread. It was an 18 and a half point spread or whatever. Speaking of Auburn, though, Auburn did win a game against Ole Miss, and they've been kind of, hot too coming into the game. Ole Miss putting up a bunch of points. They got up on them early, 14-3, and they never got all the way back. There was that moment where it was 21-17, and I thought, it was a great response with a little over 2 minutes left. 11 play drive, 69 yards, 231 it took, and it was 28-17. And it really, although it got to an 8 points, and they also had, it was 20-28. They also had that long drive where they had a turnover on downs. There was an interception, turnover on downs. Some of the stuff is like, are you sure you want to go for it on that? Like a 4th and 7, okay, but wasn't there also a 4th and 11? 4th and 7, there was one. I thought there was a 4th and 11 too. But either way, they just kind of stumbled down the stretch, and whether it was an interception or turned the ball over on downs, Ole Miss just couldn't cash in.
Yeah, and they've just been having. I'm going to give my boy a little bit of a break and just say that they were in a tough part of their schedule.
We go.
Hey,
here we go.
Just like we said, Arkansas went through a grinder. So Ole Miss had played Bama and got their butt kicked. They beat Arkansas. They beat Tennessee in what was a crazy game for many different reasons. You beat LSU. And so you basically had your 5th hard game in a row on the road at Auburn at night. Like, I thought they had a chance.
So
but
Tennessee and LSU's those super tough games?
The Tennessee game, I think Tennessee, for the environment they had that night, was a tough game, yeah.
Right, but opponent, though. Tough opponent. That's not quite like what Arkansas
for that environment and that game that it was, yes. The LSU game was not a super hard opponent. Okay, so basically you had 4 out of 5 games which were pretty hard opponents. Like, you can't. It's hard to run the table. Teams have let-up spots. Just like Arkansas, if you look at their win-loss record, is not as bad as they show. But they went through more of a grinder than even Ole Miss did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They had A&M. They had the Longhorns early when they were ranked. A&M, Georgia, Ole Miss, Auburn. That's a different streak.
Yeah, but I would say that this is pretty close. Yeah, you win Bama. You win Arkansas. Tennessee, which was a hell of a game just due to the environment.
Yeah, but I'm talking about opponent, though. What they've done this year. Tennessee's not a great opponent.
Oh, yeah, okay. They're
I'm
not
just
great.
saying you're making up a little too much here for your buddy.
I'm just saying I can see how trying to win your 5th relatively hard game in a row is tough. And even Corral, who was banged up just because the guy tries to be a running back when he's a quarterback. I know he got carted off, which I'm thankfully came back because I still want him to have a chance to win the Heisman. But yeah, the Ole Miss, they slipped up. They lost. And Auburn is a good team. And the main thing I heard about before I watched the game was, the Auburn controlled the line of scrimmage. That was the hype going into it, and it turned out to be true. Ole Miss has been excellent at running the ball this year, and especially since they've had a lot of receivers banged up lately, and that kind of slows down Kiffin's air raid. Ole Miss has ran the ball the best in the country up until this week, besides the Army, besides the military academies.
Military team.
Yeah, military academies. But obviously, when you're playing a team who's got better people in the trenches, it's going to suck. So they did lose. I think Ole Miss will come back and, actually, them against Liberty, that's going to be – I'm going to have to see what that over-under is. That's probably going to be like over-under 79 again, like they had earlier. They got Jimbo. So I hope they bounce back. I hope they finish off with a nice 4-game winning streak. But yeah, hey, tip the hat to Auburn. Bo Nix, who has gotten a lot of shit his whole career as an Auburn quarterback, after a loss early in the year, like, he's actually putting together a pretty damn good season, Chris.
Well, since he couldn't do it, I'm gonna. Okay, this is their second half. 3 and out, got a fumble, turnover on downs, field goal, turnover on downs, interception, turnover on downs. And remember, they could have kicked a field goal somewhere in there because they're only down by 11, and Auburn had the game the ball for almost 5 minutes to close the game. So there was plenty of time. So you don't want to put your guy laying on the not hot seat, but for those calls, one of those fourth down calls, you had to have just gone for the field goal and be like, hey, dude, maybe we just don't have it today. I'm not blaming the quarterback. I'm blaming, your guy. That was a little like weird, to me anyway. I mean, they had literally almost a 4:52 drive to close the game. Any of those could have went for a field goal, and then maybe you get something going. But that second half offensively, to only put up 20 points and have all those opportunities, I thought maybe 1 4th and 7 don't go for, or 4th and 3rd. I know the 4th and 1, that was different. But here's a surprise. Let's keep it in the SEC. Mississippi State beats Kentucky. Both of us were pretty high on this game. I had it in my take it to the window section. Didn't quite work out for me on that one. Too many turnovers. It just kind of a lackadaisical, right from the jump, game. They had an interception. Now they had a punt return. So, they got back up. They were up, 10-0, whatever. But, yeah, just fumble, interception, punt. Like, it was just too many turnovers for Kentucky, and they're not talented enough to play that bad. Usually they're very fundamental,
Yeah, and to give Mike Leach credit, the guy, I mean, I know it's not exactly been beautiful since he's arrived there, but he's a good coach, and I think that he is slowly but surely getting the team he wanted. I know last year he's definitely a different kind of style person, and he kind of cleaned house last year, and he's been slowly but surely putting his team together. They have had quite a few games this year, which if you look at the box score, if you watch the plays, like they could have easily some more wins than they do. In the Memphis game, they had a couple of officiating calls that were really poor that didn't favor them. So Mississippi State's not quite as bad as they look. And I mean, we're also probably building up Kentucky maybe a bit too high. Like I love the team. They're a fun team. They play defense. They have a sound offense. They run the ball. They beat you up. They're kind of like an old school blue collar football team. But realistically, I think maybe I was over the top with my expectations for them to win, just because again, this is still a Kentucky team who, if the ground and pound game isn't working, or if you have a couple of slip ups, you're still not quite the Alabama or Clemson offense, or that's not even fair, but a higher level team to make up for a couple of mistakes. Like this team has transformed from being a joke of a football team to actually, okay, we're not just a basketball school, we're pretty good, but maybe I was a little too high on picking them to win. And again, Mike Leach on given nights can pull off upsets, Chris, and that shouldn't surprise me. But hey, that's a nice win for Mississippi State. Again, they've had a weird year of many weird fluky games. But to knock off Kentucky, who's, again, been probably the top 4 to 5 best teams in the SEC, that was a great W for them.
Yeah, and to our point anyway, it was only like a 1.5 point spread. So we weren't really saying they're going to blow them out. That's why I thought we could take it to the window. But
sure,
they had other plans. Okay, Baylor moves the 7-1. The Longhorns moved to 4-4. Now they had a lead, but it wasn't, deep into the third or something like that. They did come right out and get a lead on their first drive, 14-play drive, get up 21-10. But, to Baylor's credit, they answered right back. Actually, they answered back. Touchdown. And turnover on downs, 2 of them. Just couldn't get over the hump. And then, wasn't it like a 4th and 11 fake punt? I mean, what the hell are you doing at this point?
So let me ask you, is is Baylor good, or are they just this weird team that keeps finding ways to win and just kind of coasting through the year? Maybe they are a
I
team
think they're
being worth.
pretty good. I think it's somewhere in between. Somewhere in
Sure.
between.
Like, what do we really know about? Like, their resume is not bad. I mean, you are beating teams
Yeah.
who are respectable, and you have a pretty good win-loss record. I mean, you got Oklahoma coming up, which is going to be a really fun game. So I think this Baylor team is better than people think. They're getting no national exposure, which, hell, they should, considering, all the other teams this year who are getting them a lot of hype. But, yeah, maybe this Baylor team will continue to impress us, and maybe they will win the Big 12. I mean, I can't say it's impossible. I'm kind of at a loss for words just because I feel like this is a team who is just kind of slipping under the radar. But again, if the way this college football year has been, I would trust them against a team just as much as Sparty or Michigan. Like, or hell, Kentucky was ranked 12th going into this weekend. Baylor 16th. Ole Miss was 10th. Like, Iowa's 9. Like, maybe they're a little undervalued. It'll be curious to see how they finish off this year, Chris, because again, they're not going to get the talk of an Iowa State or an Oklahoma, but they are 4-1 in conference. They have a chance to win the Big 10 or Big 12, excuse me. They also, man, they have a tough little stretch here. They go to West Virginia, who, as we know, West Virginia is better than expected. They go to TCU, they play TCU, that's probably an easy win. You got Texas Tech, easy win, but then you finish at Oklahoma. So if you can go 4-0, you're going to be in the talk for making the title game, or excuse me, the college football playoff. You probably would be in the Big 12 title game, but yeah, you have at West Virginia, TCU and Texas Tech, which would probably be wins if you don't slip up, and then you got Oklahoma. So,
but it's really not finished. Texas Tech is the last game. Yeah, right. Okay. I was like, wait a second. I thought Oklahoma and Oklahoma State played last. But I know what you're saying. Yeah.
They kind of control their own destiny.
Yeah. Obviously, they got to beat probably Oklahoma twice, but
sure. Yeah, you're more likely you'd have to beat OU and then beat them again. But they're just as much in the talks of a team that could contend for a Final Four spot as anyone else. And actually, speaking of, that's actually a very nice intro parlay into my next comment of, are people sleeping on Oregon, who, again, they've had some games that are not impressive whatsoever, but you can easily say the same thing for Oklahoma. Oklahoma's resume has been shit if you're looking for impressive wins. But if you are Oregon, you beat up a Colorado team, which you're supposed to do. But I do feel they're probably slipping under the radar more than Oklahoma State, because you're ranked 7th in the country. Your one loss was to Stanford, which was a bad loss. Stanford by no means this year is what they normally are. Well, hell, I guess they haven't been great for a couple of years, but it was a bad loss. But you beat Ohio State, who's getting hyped pretty highly, and that's
Fresno too.
Yeah,
it's like they've kind of gone down since his opening 2 games. They've won them by a touchdown apiece, and then they haven't really played that great.
You beat UCLA, at there, that's a respectable average win. So, I think this kind of ties into what we talked about at the start of the show. Was this year the bowl committee is going to have a really big hassle, because, as I've heard from a football analyst guy I respect to listen to, he was saying that if Oregon runs the table, they're in the Big 12, they're in the college football playoff. Like, and that's just something you've not been hearing much. But I guess looking at it, well, hell yeah, you'd have one loss, you would have won a major conference, and you beat Ohio State. So even though that's not a team people are talking about much, I guess, yeah, think about, though, yeah, hell, Chris, if you win out, so let's see, they have at Washington. Washington's really bad this year. Then you got Washington State, who's worse. You go to Utah, which is never easy to play at. So that's one hard game. Yeah. And you finish with the Civil War, which is Oregon State, who did beat you last year, but you would assume you're going to be the favorite. So you'll be a strong favorite in 2 games. You have to go to Utah, which, you got to earn your stripes. That'll be tough. And then you finish with Oregon State, who you'd assume at home you would not slip up to them twice. There's a great chance that Oregon could.
In a conference final, obviously.
Yeah, run the table.
Their loss is gonna. Let's see what that. That loss is not a good look, though. You know what I mean?
No, you're right.
We'll
you're right. But wouldn't you agree if they run the table though, there's no way they could be left out. I suppose you go 12-1.
Yet.
Sure.
Yeah, I can't agree with that yet because if they had lost to, a better team, then I think that their ranking would be a little better. It's tough to say. I can't agree right now to it.
Fair enough. Okay.
Would it be favorable? Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But I think those teams, and that's been a track record for some of these, remember TCU had a mediocre loss and it burnt them. So I can't, it's let's see if they can finish strong too, because,
fair enough.
They played 2 really good teams, beat them, and then have been up and down, barely getting by. Sure, they beat Colorado handily, but, we'll see. We'll see on that one.
In the shitty quarterback versus shitty quarterback, one shitty quarterback played better than the other. Oh, my God. So Wisconsin beat Iowa 27-7. Graham Mertz's stat line: 11 for 22, 104 yards, 1 touchdown. In a game that my good buddy and I cannot pick because I refuse in my head to say which shitty quarterback is worse than the other. The winning quarterback in this game was 11 of 22 for 104 yards. That's like
no picks in the red zone. They're coming.
That's like a third string NFL backup, like mop up. That's hideous. But the Iowa dance party of making it to the Final Four got punched by Purdue, and now you just got punched. Now you got like stomped in the head, and you got thrown out the party because you went from being number 2 in the country to now you're not going to be unranked, but you're going to drop pretty deep. So I stayed away from it for a reason. And again, when the winning quarterback's stats are 11-22 for 104, yet, Chris, Spencer Petras for Iowa, 9 of 19 for 93 yards. These quarterbacks in a combined Big Ten football game.
10 yards of completion, bro. That's good. I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
Two quarterbacks in a Big Ten respectable game threw for a combined 201 yards.
How much did they rush?
The teams Wisconsin rushed for 166 yards on 48 carries. Iowa, oh my God, ran the ball 30 times for 24 yards.
That's where it was. That's where the game was won right there, man.
Good
That's
Lord.
where the game was. Just the complete opposite game. Houston and SMU now, both 7-1. This freaking game was super wild. I mean, back and forth we go. Houston got it off to a nice lead up 20-17. But like I said, it was back and forth the whole time. Phenomenal game. Just an AAC shootout. And then it ends with a kickoff return. All the way 100 yards after they had just tied the game with like literally, 30 seconds left. They tied the game 37-all. You figure, okay, let's stop them from kicking a field goal, right? That's all we got to do. We can do this. And then they take a whole kickoff all the way back and ended the game basically right there. That was freaking phenomenal. We mentioned West Virginia got the job done as well. BYU and Virginia put up a grip of points, 66-49. San Diego State had been teetering, and they finally tipped over. Fresno State got a big win, 30-20. And as I mentioned earlier, my Miami Hurricanes were in another shootout, but they finally came up. I suppose last week they beat a ranked team as well. But Pittsburgh, let's not say Pickett He threw some picks. I'll give him that. But 519. I mean, he threw the ball 39 to 55. It's just a couple of those picks, But Miami, the freshman quarterback, now that, the first couple of games of this freshman quarterback, it didn't go so swell. He is starting to really pick it up. And look at him, 32 of 42. A bad pick later in the game, but 426, this dude, they got something going there at quarterback. It sucks that we don't have King. It sucks for him just in general. He should have just probably, unfortunately, went pro and not played in the ball game, and he ended up playing in the ball game, hurt himself. And luckily, he got a little cash this year, and I think he did take that insurance money, so at least he got something out of it. But I feel bad for him because now he has a shoulder injury, and that's on your throwing arm, so that's not good. But Miami 4-4 now, should probably be 6-2, but it is what it is. They've been in 4 straight really tight games. After losing 2 in a row, now they've won 2 in a row against ranked teams. Any other games that stand out to you, sir, before we start to go to week 10? Of course, the crappy pick of the week was crappy. It didn't work out. It was so, it went down to the wire. When they got up, I was like, oh, because I was actually keeping track of that game a little bit, and that was rough, dude. That was rough. They I guess just go with the home team this whole year, and it'd have been money. We wouldn't have lost one of them.
Yeah, that one's tough, sir. That one was tough. Aside from that, speaking of betting, if you bet UTEP, I think you would have cashed every ticket this year. The UTEP Miners from El Paso, Texas, who no one really knows about, they did lose this past weekend, but they lost by 3, and they were anywhere from 9 to 11 point underdogs. So if you want to make money, go to UTEP Miners football and bet them to win. Because
UTEPminers.com. Hey, they got a big game coming up, dude. You're just saying within the spread, because obviously they've lost twice, so you're not going to win every time. But you're saying with the spread in place, right?
With the spread, I think they've maybe not covered one game out of the 8 they played this year. So that team is in, and they have a huge game. Them against San Antonio UTSA, that game's actually for some Conference USA bragging rights. So UTEP football has been cashing tickets, and I say this very slightly as we move on. USC and Missouri did win, but Missouri beat Vandy, and USC beat Arizona. Arizona and Vandy, neither have won a conference game this year. So I'm not going to brag too much about either team I love. Hopefully USC gets their shit together and gets a good coach. Missouri, who was supposed to be good this year, has really lived down to expectations. So I'm happy they won, but I'm not going to brag about it because you would give me shit. I'm not going to try to defend it. So, and as I scroll through, Gophers 41-14. That's a nice win for your boys. And actually, let me say this, Chris, so we can move on. I think the entire Big Ten, your whole side of the conference, I think does almost every team control their own destiny? Because the Gophers are first at 4-1. The Badgers are 3-2. Purdue's 3-2. Iowa's 3-2.
Yeah.
I want to say Minnesota, Wisconsin, Purdue, or Iowa. Well, actually, Iowa's in trouble now because they lost to Purdue and Wisconsin. But excuse me.
But they still control their own destiny.
Sure. Yeah. So any of those teams,
guys, they don't. You're right.
Iowa would be screwed. But the Gophers, Badgers, or Boilermakers could also win the Big Ten West. Wow.
It's really coming. I mean, the thing is, the Gophers play Iowa and Wisconsin still, so they technically are the one. All those other teams need us to lose. Purdue needs us to lose, both of them, because we beat them straight up. So
I hear you. Okay.
Wisconsin beat Purdue. Purdue beat Iowa, so it's a little funky. But yeah, right now, the Gophers are the ones that control their own destiny. I should say Wisconsin too. Because if they win all their games, then they're going to go. Iowa's messed up now because of that Purdue and Wisconsin. But yeah, it's definitely a wide open race. Definitely.
Well, as we roll into week 10, which I hate saying that because that means we're on a double-digit week, which means we're more than halfway through our college football season, which is enjoyable, but also sad because, as my co-host says every year, this is the best regular season of any sport, and it continues to be true. We will have some football to watch this next weekend, though. Okay, one game that you should not. Oh my good lord! I was going to say as I was scrolling through ESPN like we like to do, Missouri goes to Georgia. Now, I was going to say do not bet Missouri because this is a game where Missouri's never had a chance against Georgia. But Missouri's a 30. However, if you want to sprinkle a little money, means Missouri's a 38-point under. Good Lord.
Yeah, I looked at that too and I said, I wonder if Marshall's going to take the bait.
Georgia's due for an off week. But this is a Missouri team who, besides beating Vandy, has looked bad. Yeah, you had the freshman quarterback of the year last year. Yeah, good God. Jesus, that's sad. 38. That's Vegas saying,
They
hey.
barely lost to Kentucky. They barely lost to Boston College. That great Tennessee squad you speak of beat them 62-24. They stayed within A&M. Man, this might be it, dude. This might be it.
Well, here's the thing. And the reason Tennessee lit up Missouri is because Missouri can't stop the run. Like, Missouri's D-line and O-line aren't that good. And Georgia's O-line, D-line are very good. So I could see a lot of bad things happening in this game.
Plus 110,000 people helps that running game.
Yeah, 38 points is a big – and that place will be sold out for sure. 38 points is a slap in the face, but clearly Vegas says, hey, you guys suck this year, and I'm not going to go against it. So that should be some humble pie for Missouri. And actually, wow, I'm off. The Ole Miss Liberty over-under, which I predicted would be 77, Chris, is 67.5. Wow. I know that like Ole Miss's defense has been okay. We've talked about that. I know you always give me shit for hyping them up, but Ole Miss's defense has become okay. But Liberty is a run and gun team, and Ole Miss normally is going to put up points. I thought for sure that over-under would be in the mid-70s, but it's all right.
They got a good-ass quarterback too, Liberty. Willis.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to be a first-round draft pick, and Corral, obviously, if he's healthy, is hopefully still a chance for the Heisman. That seems low for two teams who on a given week.
What about that 9.5? What about that 9.5? You feeling comfortable with the Ole Miss?
I hope so. Yes. Hey, you got beat. You licked your wounds. You're still sitting in a very good year. You're 8-2, or sorry, 6-2. I would take that, but again, I would look at over just because the fact that that's under 70 really surprises me, because obviously Ole Miss's defense is, well, hell, they're probably a little beat up this year, and the quarterback should be able to bounce back. So yeah, I would look at Ole Miss, but I would more so look at the over, Chris, with 67.5, just because that seems low for two teams who, for the most part, always like to put up pretty big numbers.
Yeah, Liberty's been slowing people down, but they haven't faced someone like this. Before we get to the ranked versus ranked, two things that stand out to me. Michigan State favored by 3 points on the road, and on the road, 3 points, Oklahoma State going into West Virginia. What says you about both those? Is both of those going to happen, or do we got an upset brewing?
Oh my God, bang the drum. I'm taking Purdue. I get Purdue with 3 points, 100%. That is my lock of the week. I would probably.
Well, according to ESPN's Power Football Index, it's only 60.6 for Sparty. That's really not all that much. And yeah, that's interesting.
I have no basketball coaching plans Saturday 2:30. I will be locked in watching that game. I'm gonna have to find a old retro Drew Brees throwback, but I will have Purdue money down. You upset Iowa, okay, and you had a little bit of a hiccup after that. But you're at home. Michigan State's coming off
a
a
big win.
Huge drive. This is literally the perfect. And last week Purdue beat Nebraska at Nebraska. And hey, to give credit to them, Nebraska's win-loss record has not been that good, but every game they've played this year has been like a one-touchdown game. Like, That is the perfect spot. 100%. That is my lock of the week. Punch it in.
Take it to the window.
Yeah, I will have my own money down. I'll screenshot us if I need to on the podcast, but whatever. That's my first bet. The fact that you're getting 3 points, 100%.
I was gonna pick that one with you because of the letdown scenario. Whereas West Virginia, they just coming off a ranked win, so to win against, I guess you could make an argument the Hurricanes just beat 2 ranked teams in a row when they've not looked as good, and now they're 500. But I don't know if they can go back-to-back ranked teams, the Mountaineers. They are at home, but I'm wondering about that one. Does that one catch your eye? Otherwise, Auburn A&M, speaking of getting back on the horse and having to go against a team that's still somewhat in the thick of things, Auburn and A&M, and Auburn's schedule's been pretty damn, heavy here.
Oh, well, they did play Ole Miss, so interesting comments from my co-host who is giving me a hard time for talking about the gauntlet of what Ole Miss goes through, but then compliments the team they just played.
Georgia, Arkansas, and Ole Miss. That's 3 in a row. That's not Tennessee or
that Tennessee arena was the loudest I've ever heard on TV.
It was loud. They screamed there.
And they throw golf balls at people. I'm just saying, you got to factor that in, my friend.
That's true.
So maybe that's why Ole Miss lost. Lane was suffering from an elbow injury from that golf ball.
If that made them good, we'd see 105,000 golf balls on the field. Trust me on that one.
So as I try to get back on track here,
I'd be selling golf balls outside of the venue.
Okay. So Purdue's my lock it in lock. Oklahoma State. So what we know about them is their offense isn't that good. I know that their win-loss record is nice, but their offense is challenging. Okay. And you are walking in against a West Virginia team who, again, their win-loss record isn't that great. They're 4-4, 2-3 in conference, but they've played Oklahoma really tight. They just knocked off Iowa State. And they also have a future NFL running back. This is not a team you probably want to play. So I feel more confident, Chris, in taking Purdue than I would against Sparty than taking Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State has a chance, but again, this is a West Virginia team who, despite the win-loss record, they're a good squad. I wouldn't touch this game. If I had to pick a winner, I would take West Virginia, but I don't feel super confident. I just think Oklahoma State, their offense, they had some offensive issues when they went to Iowa State and they lost. And you're going back out on the road again to another pretty tough environment. So I would lean towards West Virginia, but I wouldn't be taken to the window. I would just feel confident using that as a pick. Now for Auburn A&M, to what I still believe, I still think that Calzada, A&M backup, I believe he's still probably under center. I guess can't rip the kid too much because he beat Bama. But he's had moments of ups and downs. So I think Auburn's probably has actually. Well, I can't say that. I was gonna say Auburn's got a better defense, but A&M's D-line kind of really played well against Bama. So I'm torn just because I think Auburn has oh God, I can't say Bo Nix's going to go win in college. Screw it. I'm taking Texas A&M.
People in College Station.
I was about to talk myself into taking Auburn, but I'm not going to take Bo Nix at Texas A&M in what's going to be the CBS 2:30 game of the week. No, screw it. No, take A&M with the points. I was about to say something really stupid. Yep, A&M locked in with -4.5.
People are making a big deal. Oh, dude, Alabama, and there's no Alabama and LSU. CBS decided, well, not that they're not playing, but CBS didn't pick it up. It's like, well,
It's a
What?
29-point
Yeah,
spread.
like why wouldn't you want to see a better ranked team? Who cares about that game? I mean, yeah, we get it. They're great rivals, but it's still 6 o'clock on prime time on ESPN, so it's not like everything's lost there. And I agree. Back to back, Bo Nix. He helped me out last week, but I'm not going to go to that well too many times. Just too many times you can't do it. So yeah, I'm with you. I think A&M will win a sneaky game. 4.5 points. Yeah, I think A&M will pull that off, even with the spread more than likely. There's your UTEP. What is it? San Antonio, right?
UTSA, yes, sir.
UTSA against UTEP. 11 points. Should we just put UTEP to sneak under that 11 points or what?
Yes, lock that one in. I'm going to give my Purdue bet 3 stars. I'll give UTEP 2 stars. They're a covering machine. They could win the game. I mean, it's not out of the realm. This team is playing incredible football. I know UTSA is ranked, but it's in El Paso, and as we've talked about many times, I'm the crafty pick of the week, which no longer applies to them.
No.
That's a tough place to go. El Paso, you don't just walk into the Sun Bowl with the beautiful mountain background. So,
especially in November.
I will be taking UTEP along with Bang the Drum Purdue. Yes, I'll be taking UTSA to not cover. I'll be taking UTEP for sure. 100%. Yes, sir. That'll be
Illinois and Minnesota are playing football, okay? And Minnesota, who had a great performance last week, you mentioned it. 14.5-point spread is still kind of like, they lost another running back for the rest of the season. So now they're down to 2 scholarship running backs. They had a linebacker in last week. He ran for a touchdown late in the game.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so there's 2 freshmen. One true freshman who's Bucky Irving, who's been lighting it up, and then another redshirt freshman. So that's who we got left. I guess we got another probably a linebacker coming over, a safety or something, who played, in high school, played well or whatever. So we are going to try to get a 4th running back behind it. We also had a guy in mid-season going to the transfer portal who would be playing right now, or at least splitting time. So it's going to be rough. But my point is, I could see Illinois losing, but maybe keeping it under that 14.5-point spread. They got a big line. If they can maybe cause a turnover and get the ball rolling, they might be able to play keep away. I would pick Memphis straight out against SMU, but this isn't a couple years ago when they had a really good offense. So I'm not sure. My Miami Hurricanes have been in a lot of close games. I've said that. They're a 10-point favorite. How much confidence do I have in them to do that? That I don't know, sir.
Let me ask you this, because these are 2 teams we've talked about quite a bit this year. I've joked about both of them, one more than the other. But if you had to throw down $100, Chris, are you taking Iowa State minus 6.5 at Ames against Texas? Is this a game where Texas finally bounces back and wins a game? Or do we just fade Texas again and assume Iowa State, Brock Purdy at home, get a W? I mean, I'm sure it'll be a sold-out game like it's on FS1. These are 2, big-name teams. But I feel that this is either going to be a 20-point Iowa State victory or a walk-off field goal win by Texas. What does your gut say on this one, my friend?
I've been, for whatever reason, I think 2 or 3 games I've been wrong with Texas. I just have been. I just admit it. I just have been. The last 2, I've just screwed them up. So I'm a bad person to ask when it comes to Texas this year, obviously. However, this is the same reasoning I've gone. They're going to do it this week because they're bound to do it. Well, now that they're both unranked and there's no rank versus nothing, maybe they will, or they lose by less than 6.5. Maybe that's what it is.
I guess if I had to, I would take Iowa State just because what has Texas shown us at all this year?
Yeah.
in big games. They've had a lot of close heartbreaks, but again, I'm not going to shed a tear because it's Texas, so I say horns down politely.
Well, for about 45 minutes, they're a hell of a squad. I mean, hell of a squad.
They're
a semifinalist. If it was only about 45-minute games, they're a semifinalist, baby.
Oh God. Okay, so here's a 1-point spread again with Kentucky. Now Tennessee, who I said, the loudest stadium in the country.
Here we go.
They're not at home though. They're walking into Lexington, where you assume you have a pretty pissed off Kentucky team, because oh boy, this one's interesting. I would lean towards Kentucky. Kentucky -1. Tennessee, yeah. Take Kentucky. Bet throw Kentucky. So I now got a 1 star. So I got 3 stars on Purdue, 2 stars on UTEP, 1 star on Kentucky. Kentucky has to simply beat Tennessee. If they win by 1, they push. But I like Kentucky to take down their basketball SEC rivals and take down the Volunteers at Kroger Field in Lexington, Kentucky, sir. And yes, for the Bama LSU, over under is 66. The point spread's 28.5 points. So if you ask why the game's not on 2:30 on CBS, it's because Auburn A&M's a 4.5-point spread. This is 7 times the spread. This probably will not be a good game. If you want to watch it, you can, but 100% of this game has no business being on a primetime spot. 100%. You're 100% right, sir.
And it is a primetime spot anyway, in a sense.
Yeah,
it's just not free primetime.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So people shouldn't be freaking out. And hey, that Alabama-Tennessee game, speaking of Tennessee, did actually have a fat rating in that same spot. I know it just because there was a boxing event after, so I knew the lead-in and how much it was. So, it is what it is. All right. Let's get to this crappy pick of the week, man, because unless you have something other to add, because up 20-17, looking good. La Tech, they tie up the game, and then they end up losing in overtime. 42-yard kick or something like that. It was heartbreaking. But, yeah, if there's any other ones you want to, tie up the loose ends, otherwise, let's get to this crappy pick of the week, because it's I'm struggling. I thought I could get to 6-3. I thought we'd get to 6-3, and here I am sitting at 5-4. We're sitting at 5-4 for the year, and it's another must-win scenario, my friend.
Hey, we're still printing money in the positive. We are, and I think I think we're going to be 6-4 after this week. Okay, it's literally the first time in 8 years we've not been like huge over 500. Like we're good though. We're okay. We're still in the green. Oh boy. So I mentioned how there is a beautiful matchup in Conference USA this week, which is our UTEP Miners, our second adopted team. We've adopted the Raging Cajuns, but after what they did to me last week on my bets, I'm no longer talking about them for a while. This Conference USA matchup is not exactly what you'd call beautiful. I'd call this more horrendous. These teams have played a combined 16 games, and they have a total of 3 wins. We're going to Ricardo Silva Stadium in Miami, Florida. And, Chris, I'm not talking about your Hurricanes. I'm talking about Old Dominion playing against Florida International. Old Dominion is 2-6. Florida International is 1-7. 1-3 in conference, 0-4 in conference. The over/under is 52. The point spread, again, we always try to make these point spreads close, so when Chris picks the winner, it's within taste for gambling or just even odds. Old Dominion.
Right now, I'm feeling like I wish you'd pick some other wider games.
Oh, yeah, touche. Old Dominion's a 2.5-point road favorite. What does your gut say on the Ricardo Silva Stadium matchup at 6 o'clock on ESPN Plus?
Well, first of all, not home of the Monarchs. You're my friend for a long time, but you're a bastard, because we had Old Dominion in the game last week, and it is they burnt me last week, and now I got to sit here and I got to look at these guys. Oh my God, the Monarchs. They burned me last week at OT, and I got to plop right back up here.
And now they're a road favorite.
Oh my God, they're Jesus road favorite. No road games have won this year at all. So who do you think I want to go with? Of course, I want to go with Old Dominion because at some point the road's got to break through. I know I said that last week, but it's true. It just has to be. However, do you pick a team that had one win? They were 1-6, and now they're going to win 2 back-to-back games? Like, you know how difficult that is? Oh, man. You planned this, dude.
I didn't. Honestly, I didn't.
This is – well, you didn't do enough research or something. Okay. Man, this one is the toughest pick I think I've ever had to just because we've never done both of them. That's 2 teams now, by the way, that have advanced up out of the crappy pick of the week. Because remember, the Raging Cajuns used to be there too.
Oh, yeah,
a few years ago.
Yeah.
And so now we got 2 of them. San Antonio in that. Maybe Old Dominion's just going to win their way out of it. But yeah, I'm obviously trying to buy time right now because this one is just killing me. I mean, I can't believe it, but you know what?
Florida International's 1-7. Good God. And they're a dog at home.
Oh, man, this is such a tough one. Okay, so I remember saying this last week. I was a little nervous about the run game in general, and then also the fact that Old Dominion could somewhat stuff the run at 121. That's good for the crappy pick of the week to slow down teams like that. That's actually a good number. Usually we see a lot higher. I mean, Florida International's $190 basically. They're giving up so many yards. Now they can pass the shit out of the ball, but maybe that's just because they've been behind so much. Neither team can defend. You really set me up to fail here, but I'm going to go freaking Old Dominion. I can't believe I got to pick them back-to-back weeks against. The Monarchs are going to go in. It's only $5. Don't tell anybody. Tickets are only $5, so that might fill up. But unfortunately, oh, my God, I can't believe I got to pick a team that just beat me in overtime. Oh, my God. Okay, I'm picking Old Dominion. But you know what? At home, you can hear how messed up I am right now. So I wouldn't be mad if you put a little money on those Panthers, those Florida International Panthers. I'm just saying because you can hear the doubt in my voice. But I'm going Old Dominion to somehow out of nowhere miraculously win back-to-back weeks.
for the Battle of Alumni, we'll repeat a couple people from Old Dominion. Justin Verlander, Kent Bazemore, the NBA player. Then it was a bunch of people we don't know about. For Florida International, all famous alumni, Andy Garcia, the actor, Mike Lowe, the former Red Sox third baseman, Rajah Bell, the former Phoenix Suns, T.Y. Hilton, who's probably the best name on this whole list. After that, it's a bunch of people who I'm not aware of, and they have a bunch of photos, but yeah, they don't ring a bell to me. So, I'm gonna take Rajah Bell and T.Y. Hilton. I'll take Florida International in the Battle of Alumni, and I believe because last week I took Old Dominion and they lost, so this week I'm gonna take Florida International and let my boy get a pick in. So, it's funny too because I was scrolling through last week's games. A game that we had picked 2 weeks prior. I saw that team, and in my head, I thought, okay, well, obviously, this was a game we picked a week ago. So, okay, let's go into a new. So, a former team, he'll go back to Old Dominion. So, I was a little, I was misconstrued. Yeah, misconstrued as to who was our last game of the crappy peak of the week was. I thought I went 2 weeks back instead of 1. But I think we go to 6-4 again. We do this for fun. We started this literally the second we did this podcast. But almost every single year, I'm not lying to you, we normally hit about 70% of our picks. I don't think we ever had.
We had a perfectly fine North Texas Southern Miss. I'm looking at it right now. We had a perfectly fine North Texas Southern Miss game to pick. Oh, boy. You know what? Maybe this is what I need to get off the schneid. That's what we need. We need all this. Old Dominion's coming through. You can tell I'm
The-
confident.
We've done this podcast for 10 years. I might be fired after this week. If so, I just want to say it's been an honor to all those who've listened to me. I've truly appreciated your follows and listens. But if Chris is solo next week, I'm either on a 1-week suspension or I've been terminated, and Chris will be applying for looking for a new co-host. So it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. The boys are out tonight. Peace.